Hello everybody and welcome back to the Gaming Pantry, which today is doubling as the Wrestling Pantry, because I did threaten to do this a few weeks ago, and despite popular opinion dissuading me from doing so, we are back with some more WWF, WCW, NWA, classic VHS wrestling videos. A slight departure from the usual stuff, but enough people did sort of express an interest, joking aside, apart from one person who was very much against the idea. But hey ho, us 45-year-old virgins have nothing else better to do than sit here and make videos about our own collection, so here we are doing it once again. This is, well, what is usually the Gaming Pantry. I am the Retro Bear, and as you can see, I am currently unsupervised, which is why we're doing this video. Also, you'll notice it says, I know it scares me too, but the possibilities are endless. And indeed they are. Yes, another of the range, the comedy t-shirts that Mrs. Bear manages to find and keeps buying for me to wear. I love them. I think they're great. I know this sort of thing is, I don't know, frowned upon in some circles, but I love them. They're great. I've got loads of these. She finds them from all over different places. So, and it's red. I love the colour. Red, my colour. Brilliant. Yes, so Gaming Pantry, usually we do games and things in here. If you've not seen it before, then have a look at the content on the channel. Maybe you'll see something there you're interested in, and possibly continue to comment, like, subscribe, and tick notification bells, share the videos, do all the YouTubey things that you do. And we all do, even so. Let's address the game in the room, and because it's quite appropriate today, we are talking wrestling videos. That will have a wrestling game on in the background, which, as you can see here, is the criminally underrated WWE All-Stars on the Wii. As you can see, this would be complete if the disc was in there, but the disc is in the machine, which is why it's working in the background. And yeah, this is very much a non-sort of generic WWE game for a change. Sort of basically muscling everybody up a little bit and going in slightly a different direction. And at some point that's probably going to go blank, or say it's been disconnected or something, so we'll have a bit of fun with that as we go along. So for those of you who watched the first two videos, and if you haven't watched the first two videos, then you really, well, you're watching part 3. But more importantly, go back and have a look at those two, because there's some really interesting stuff there. If you like your wrestling from the late 80s, mid-late 80s through to the sort of late 90s, then this is sort of the stuff that's going to appeal to you. Once again, I will give you a little bit of a warning that my memory is a little bit hazy. I am getting on a bit. So I may not be able to remember a lot of the content of these videos. Some of you may have never heard before, some of you may know very well. It's going to be a mixture of sort of Coliseum video exclusives, which came out with just matches they taped at sort of arena shows. And some of it also is going to be sort of pay-per-view stuff, which you may know. And I may not know, because some of these things, like I said, I've seen once, maybe twice, and I won't know. So this is going to be whatever I pull out the box. And it's a pretty hefty old box, so this probably will be the last part, and I should try and get through this as quickly as possible. Famous last words. Yeah, it's going to be another hour. Anyway, right. Let's start off with stuff, shall we? Let's pull these out of the box. So Coliseum exclusive, first of all, Invasion 1992 with the Nature Boy Ric Flair on the front, which is when he was in WWF. I'm pretty sure that's Davey Boy Smith he's got in the headlock there. Also, bonus manager cam, Sensational Sherry. There she is on the front. And the great thing about these videos is that this was just stuff that was taped for purely home video release. You can see I've started watching that one. That's got the old Coliseum blue piracy prevention. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, back in when I started making these, they created these blue spines across the top of the VHS, just to say that you've got an official Coliseum video. If it was not blue, then it wasn't. On the back there, so we got the Nasty Boys, the Legion of Doom down the bottom there as well. So what have we got in here? Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Macho Man Randy Savage take on Jake the Snake Roberts and The Undertaker. Well, that sounds quite good. Hulk Hogan and Typhoon take on each other. So that was when Typhoon turned his back on him. And the Legion of Doom take on the Beverly Brothers, taped at special request of WWF fans. You're never going to meet somebody who actually requested that. Savage is also on here again as he guest referees Virgil versus the $1 Million Man. And the Big Boss Man takes on Hercules. Okay. There's also a profile on Ric Flair. He takes on Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels on the same video. What can I say other than get it? On the floor it goes. Next up, from a bit earlier, hottest matches with Jake the Snake Roberts on the front. It includes superstar workouts. as well. You need to see the inside. There was another blue spine there, but you can see. I was checking these for sort of like evidence of tape rot as well. If you watch the first two videos, mention that. A lot of these tapes have survived pretty well. So we got on the back here. We've got what have we got on the back there? It's like the Rockers and the Orient Express, Greg Valentine and Dusty Rhodes, and then it looks like it's Tito Santana and Rick Martel. And it's a 2-hour tape. It features Jake the Snake and a profile with some of his most exciting matches, which they never are, but a credible 17-minute action-packed match between Ted DiBiase and Shawn Michaels. Non-stop action as Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire take on Macho King Randy Savage and Sensational Queen Sherry. That's a really fun match, actually. I remember that. You remember the WrestleMania match, WrestleMania 6 match, which they had. This actually is much, much better and much, much more fun. The Rockers against the Orient Express, and we've also got Dusty Rhodes against Greg Valentine, plus others. They won't tell you everything on there because they want you to buy it. Be full of like Brooklyn Brawler versus Coco Beware. Mega matches, which features exclusive profile on Macho King Randy Savage. You can also see we've got Tito Santana against the Earthquake. Well, there's only one way that's going to turn out. And the Bushwhackers. And the Bushwhackers, eh? Another blue spine. Another clean videotape. Put this one away. What else we got on here? So we got Hillbilly Jim. There's Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Sergeant Slaughter. Looks like there's Dusty Rhodes down the bottom again. And the Big Boss Man on the far side. What have we got here? Randy Savage, exclusive profile plus lifestyles of the rich and famous visits the Kingdom of the Madness. That's never going to end well, is it? Fan favourite match, Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Sergeant Slaughter. WWF Magazine presents an exclusive match between Big Boss Man and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Well, yeah. Tito Santana does take on Earthquake, and also at home with Hillbilly Jim. And that'll give you an idea of how good that segment is going to be. You wouldn't get that anywhere else. They only film stuff like that for these particular tapes. Smack 'em Whack 'em. I'm sure that's code for something. This features the infamous ladder match for the Intercontinental title between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Now, if you're a wrestling aficionado and know what you're talking about, that was the trial run, I believe, for the WrestleMania 10 match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon to see if a ladder match would actually work. Now, there'd been new ladder matches, I think, previously in the Stampede area prior to that. But I think this was the one which sort of swung them that it actually could work. And also exclusive to this video, The Undertaker versus Razor Ramon. And an exclusive Bret Hart video profile as well. Does it have a blue spine retro there? Yes, it does. It's not the greatest condition tape, I must be honest with you, because someone's put a coffee cup right in the middle of that label. Now, I would say some of these are likely, I said the majority of the stuff I bought again. Some of these I had to start with and then got rid of and then bought them again years later. So what have we got? We've got Bret Hart, we've got Razor Ramon, and we've got the Bushwhackers. He's got to mention the ladder match there. What else have we got? We've got Crush against the Berserker. You can see that the quality's beginning to drop down already. Repo Man against the Earthquake. Many more wrestling superstars in action, which basically means there ain't a lot on this tape that's particularly good. Cooking for the Single Man with Yokozuna. And Home Improvements with the Bushwhackers. Yeah. There's a lot of comedy stuff on that tape. That's the thing, you entice people in with a ladder match, and then what you do? You throw some comedy stuff on there just to make sure. Paul Bearer's Hits from the Crypt. Yep, you can see the pun on the name there. Paul Bearer was a wrestling character. And it took me a number of years to work out that. I've got to be honest with you. All the top WWF superstars' unbelievably grueling matches handpicked by the manager of the Pale Destroyer. Now, he's referring to The Undertaker there. I never heard The Undertaker referred to as the Pale Destroyer. That may or may not be an official tape. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it is. Because I didn't deal in sort of copies, backups at the time. I only sort of dealt with original ones. So we've got featuring Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, Mabel versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Again, you can know which era we're in here. We're sort of like 1991, 92, 93. When this tape came out in 94, so this probably could be even worse. Undertaker versus Crush, Earthquake versus Adam Bomb, Lex Luger versus Jeff Jarrett, Bret Hart versus Quang, The Head Shrinkers versus the Quebecers, Lex Luger and Randy Savage against Yokozuna and Crush, and Men on a Mission and Doink, the Clown, against the Quebecers and Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Many exclusive matches shot only for this video, because they couldn't put anywhere else. Crunch Classic. I think this was hosted by Roddy Piper. Yes. Well, including Earthquake plus Rowdy Roddy Piper. I'm not sure what the appeal there is. That tugboat on the front being squashed, getting a close-up of Earthquake's groin. I have no idea. So on the back we got Piper on the top there, the late Roddy Piper. You got Virgil and Erwin R. Shyster, the tax man, because he's known as IRS, which is tax in America. Superstar profile Roddy Piper. Snakes are fun pets. Everything you probably didn't want to know about Jake the Snake's reptile friends. Tag team match of the month. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Sergeant Slaughter, who on the previous tape were fighting each other. Team up to battle the Natural Disasters. British Bulldog takes on The Undertaker. Video exclusive mega match. Virgil and the Big Boss Man against the villainous team of IRS and Million Dollar Man. And then the rest, and to fill out the tape, Jim the Anvil Neidhart against Skinner. The Texas Tornado against Rick the Model Martel, and the New Foundation against the Nasty Boys. Plus 24 hours on the road with Jimmy Hart. I think 24 minutes on the road with Jimmy Hart would be enough to send anybody scurrying for the nearest exit. Bashed in the USA, which is where they should have stayed. Exclusive superstar profile of Shawn Michaels. You can see Mr. Perfect hitting Razor Ramon with a chair there. Bret Hart doing some drawing. Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels at the top, and Earthquake appears to be sitting on the Beverly Brothers there in the middle. Earthquake and Typhoon sitting on the Beverly Brothers. What we got? 40-man Battle Royal. Now this was if you've never seen a 40-man Battle Royal, there is this tape and there is another one, which I think is US Rampage 91, 92. US Rampage 92, 40-man Battle Royal. They literally pull everybody out of the locker room and put them in one ring at the same time, and then they throw each other over the top. And there's well-known names, and then there's like the jobbers, the enhancement talent. That one's a nice clean tape, just so you're interested. I didn't show you Crunch Classic, but it's too late now. I'm not going to go back and do that one. 40-man Battle Royale. Yokozuna versus The Undertaker. Bret Hart versus Rick Martel. Big Boss Man versus Razor Ramon. Tag Team Extras. Tatonka and High Energy against Rick Martel and Money Inc. Natural Disasters against the Beverly Brothers. The Mr. Perfect Guide to Stamp Collecting. And Shawn Michaels profile. And Bret Hart does some drawing. Yeah. He won't be drawing much on that video, I tell you. Invasion of the Body Slammers, which was a tape I was after for some unknown reason for years. And came across in a charity shop. Featuring a Kamala Goes Bowling. Now, Kamala at one point was being promoted as the Ugandan giant, the headhunter, and then got humanised from being a slave and ended up in some really horrible comedy matches and things like that. So, Invasion of the Body Slammers. So, we've obviously got the Kamala bowling lessons. We've got Mr. Perfect versus Ric Flair. See, that should be good. You'd think that'd be good. Undertaker against Papa Shango. The Undertaker versus Razor Ramon. Kamala versus Doink the Clown. I can't. Words fail me. The Nasty Boys versus the Beverly Brothers. Tatonka versus the Repo Man. A 16-man Battle Royal. Yokozuna versus the Earthquake. Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. So again, you're putting your best people on tapes to attract people in. And Bam Bam Bigelow versus Typhoon. I can't remember anybody ever wanted to request that match. Right, what are we going to do now? Let's do them at the end. Let's try and get these exclusives out of the way. Of course, a lot of tapes here. We're rocketing through these. He says rocketing through. UK fan favourites. So this is a tape which has been the biggest WWF superstar in the most requested matches from their UK fans, apparently. And someone's watched that all the way through. Might have been me, I don't know. Fan favourites 95. So we are really into the mid-90s here. This is probably, again, a tape I've just picked up. And again, I was scaring it because I may have mentioned on the previous, when the old court case between the WWF and what was the World Wildlife Fund came about in the was it 2002, I think it was, and there was all sorts of restrictions placed on what the World Wrestling, like a World Wrestling Entertainment, could do in terms of old footage, and all of a sudden the price of these started shooting up because you thought, well, they can't edit out all the old logos, the old logo issues. You couldn't mention the World Wrestling Federation or WWF. And I had to bleep all that stuff out and blur all the images out. So a lot of this stuff all of a sudden started skyrocketing. It's not so much now, but this sort of thing, because it wasn't, it's not something that's available on the network. Although they have a section for their home video, it's not a huge amount of that stuff is on there that I have here. So some of this stuff at the moment hasn't seen the light of day for 20 years, 25 years. In some cases, that's not a bad thing. So we got the British Bulldog on the front, and I think there's the Undertaker down the bottom. What have we got here? And it's actually given people's names. So if you are sitting at home and this is your name, we can judge you with a thumbs up or thumbs down by the match you requested. Such as the Undertaker versus Jerry the King Lawler from Carl Robinson of Ripley in Derbyshire. Yokozuna versus the 123 Kid from Gregory Imber from Stanmore in Middlesex. Not a good choice, Gregory. Lex Luger versus Tatanka from Simon Miller in Belfast. Owen Hart versus the 123 Kid from Tracy Hughes in Folkestone. Too many 123 Kid matches on here already. British Bulldog versus Tatanka from Ian Simister. I thought it said Sinister then. It's Ian Simister. It could be Cine Steve, I don't know. From Rossendale in Lancashire. Adam Bomb versus IRS. Not just one person requested that, but two. Two people. Stand up and be punched in the face repeatedly. Stephen Smith from Grimsby and Pritesh Rathod of Walthamstow. Apologies if I got your name wrong, but that's a terrible match to select. What were you thinking of? How old were you at the time? Both of you. Bret Hart and the British Bulldog against Owen Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. That's better. Again, two people requested this. Margaret Hutt of Liverpool. Know her brother Pizza. And Andrew Kilner of Barnsley. And then finally, Razor Ramon versus Bob Backlund. Obviously, the WrestleMania 9 match was not enough for you two people. Stephen Johnson of Rainhill and David Shepherd of West Watford. Is there a West Watford? Is Watford big enough to have North, East, South, West? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, that one obviously flew off the shelves. Into the bin. Now, wrestling grudge matches. Now, this is the tape I did buy. This is an interesting retro bear type story. And again, I'll try and be brief. I had what we used to when you used to have the video cassettes. You could write to them. There's always an address on the back saying further information. You can either ring the telephone number or join their mailing list. And they'd send you a catalogue every sort of quarter, which had new wrestling video releases in it and all this. And every now and again, I'd buy one of these off mail order. And I spent ages looking at a number of tapes. This was one tape I was looking at, and I decided to buy this one because I went to the match. I thought, well, actually, there's not some bad matches on there. But you probably, if I read these out, it gives you an idea of just how good those matches were. You've got Papa Shango against Randy Savage on the front. You've got, once again, the Natural Disaster squashing people in the corner. You've got, on this video, Virgil versus IRS. Shawn Michaels versus Bob Backlund. Typhoon versus Kamala. Ric Flair versus The Undertaker. That was one of the matches I wanted to see. It's so disappointing. It's so disappointing. It's tape for... You know... Ric Flair at the time was a champion, so he's meant to be defending his title, but when they walk out and they got the Coliseum video graphic in the background that there ain't going to be a title change, because they didn't do things like that. Very, very well, they did it once, I think. Very rarely they change a title away from something they were taping for television or broadcast. Bret Hart versus Repo Man, Crush versus Rick Martel, the Big Boss Man and Virgil versus the Beverly Brothers, El Matador Tito Santana versus the Berserker, Randy Savage versus Papa Shango, El Matador Tito Santana versus Terry Taylor. What was I thinking? I take it back from those people I slagged off in that last video. I'm as bad as you lot. The Natural Disasters, High Energy versus the Beverly Brothers and Money Inc. So an 8-man tag match. Marty Jannetty versus Papa Shango. Tatanka versus Blake Beverly, which actually came from an episode of WWF Super Wrestling Challenge. And much more. Exclusive, the Natural Disasters and High Energy. Yeah, I've mentioned that one. And At Work with the Repo Man. Now, I think I also got it because the fact this tape used to run 150 minutes, and I wanted, I'm paying $12.99, I think I was at the time. I want value for my money, don't I? Trying to go for the longest videotape. Well, slap my thigh and call me Doris. That was a terrible mistake to make. What have we got here? We've got more mid-90s shenanigans with Brawl in the Family. Now, I don't know anything about this one, but again, it was a tape which sort of eluded me for quite some time. Yeah, that one looks alright. I'm not showing you all the insides of this, because I don't want to sort of go on. And you can see there's loads of writing on the back here, which doesn't give you anything about it. So, what have we got? Diesel versus Double J. Undertaker against King Kong Bundy. Men on a Mission versus Owen Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Oh, there we go. That makes sense. Lex Luger against Bob Backlund. Razor Ramon versus King Kong Bundy. See, shortage of decent matches. Razor Ramon. Oh, sorry, yeah. Bret Hart versus Owen Hart and a no-holds-barred match. Now, they had a good thing going at the time. Doink against Jerry the King Lawler. That's going to be a comedy match. Mabel against Tatanka and the 1-2-3 Kid against Bret the Hitman Hart. That's Brawl in the Family. And I might be sitting thinking, yeah, actually, I'm being really unfair on some of this stuff. Prove me wrong. Now, this is much, much later. And again, I picked this up from nowhere. And I think I picked this up because... Oh, it's 87 minutes long. I think the DVD release is 3 hours. This is WWF Action. Now, this is going to be probably from around 2001. So it's Trish Stratus on the front, she's also on the back. There's an interesting little comedy message there, which says, cautions under pressure, contents under pressure, do not shake. Contains no footage of Trish in a bikini. So that's all you're going to get. So this is 2001 stuff. Collection of most recent exciting matches in recent Federation history, from hard-hitting hardcore matches to Trish's irresistible allure. From the tenderness of Spike and Molly's recent relationship to the winner-takes-all stakes of the Invasion 2001. So that puts it right at the very end when I'm sort of like, last sort of 18 months I was regularly watching wrestling, so I stopped wrestling mid-2003, I think it was. Yeah, WWF Action. There's a receipt from HMV in there as well. But I think the video cassette's about 3 hours, the DVD is about 3 hours long. But I've got all that stuff on hard drive anyway, so... Grudges, Gripes and Grunts, or as we call it, a night out in Birmingham. Free WWF motion cards inside. They're mad, now they're getting even. Are there any motion cards inside? No. There is a videotape though, which is always very useful. And we've got Mr. Perfect and Papa Shango and Shawn Michaels. I think he's probably got Razor Ramon in a headlock there, and then you've got IRS and Typhoon for some reason. On the back, we've got the Steiner brothers. I mentioned the Steiners before. You can see the Bushwhackers are still clinging on to life at the top there. I love the Bushwhackers. Bam Bam Bigelow in the bottom middle, and there's Randy Savage on the far side. So what have we got on this one? The most gruesome grudge matches of all time. Mr. Perfect versus Papa Shango. The Undertaker versus Repo Man. Macho Man Randy Savage and Bret Hart against Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. Now again, putting those guys in the ring at the same time, it should equal good stuff. But then you have to watch the Mega Maniacs, which is Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake, against the Beverly Brothers. This is probably from early 1993 then, WrestleMania, probably February 93 till the summer of 93 before Hogan disappeared again. The Bushwhackers and Tiger Jackson, who was a, I don't know what way of saying it. Yeah. You know what I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into that one. Against the Beverly Brothers and Little Louis Fayetteville. Who knows what that's going to be like. Money Inc. versus the Natural Disasters. Intercontinental Championship match between Shawn Michaels and Hacksaw and Jim Duggan. Possibly from Monday Night Raw, because I know they had a match on Raw. Bonus wrestling lessons with the Steiner brothers. Now, there's two people who never used to take any pity on anybody. You can imagine what that's going to turn out to be. And exclusive segment with Bam Bam Bigelow. So that's a night out in Birmingham, all Grudges, Gripes and Grunts. Oh God! Now this is a horrible tape. 1996 was probably the rock bottom. 95, 96 in terms of sort of quality wrestling. If you grew up watching wrestling in the late 80s, by the mid 90s it was looking a bit grey around the edges. The whole sort of character thing just wasn't working, and people pretending to be plumbers and bin men and clowns was not the done thing, and people wanted a bit more edge to their product, which is where this comes into it. Because this has got some horrible things in it. It's the Slammy Awards from 1997. I've never watched this, but I have got it. I've got a copy on hard drive, and it's. I think I got about 5 minutes in before I turned it off because it was horrible, absolutely horrible. The most outrageous award show of 1997. There's some names in the back here: Stone Cold Steve Austin, Wildman Mark Merrow, Flash Funk, Mankind, Rocky Maivia, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, The Undertaker, Savio Vega, Psycho Sid. The awards including for that night were the new sensation of the squared circle, the 1996 Man of the Year, the 1-2 He's Got Him, the best finishing manoeuvre, best hair day, dressed to kill. These are all awards, by the way. These are the ones that the Oscars don't hand out. Number one with a bullet, the Edel Music Award. Star of the highest magnitude, Tattoo You, Miss Slammy, and the Lifetime Achievement Award. Yeah, I'm not going to be watching that one anytime soon. Yeah, these ones. This is interesting. Little interesting series. In 1992, the WWF, or 1993, they started bringing out yearly videos. Year in review videos. And this is great, because I've got most of these, and I've got all the ones they did. I'm just going to drop all these. Hang on a second. Too many tapes. Put these back down. There we go. That's better. Don't pick them up. Now, this one was the first one they produced, which is the 1992 Year in Review. It's a well-known fact that the master copy of this, which the WWF owned, was in such a bad state of repair, they didn't own a backup of it. So this, if you have a copy of this, and it's in good condition, then you've done pretty well, because their version is knackered. They may have changed. This was a few years back, mind. But I think they were sort of desperately trying to find if they could get a decent copy from the retail, because theirs was sort of decayed. And this just covers 1992. So this will cover all the pay-per-views, all the major angles. I'm not going to read the list of matches. There's way too many things on there. Includes a tribute to Hulk Hogan, because he retired after WrestleMania 8. So there's the WrestleMania 3 match, and there's also the WrestleMania 6 match in here. But they'll have dub commentary on, because at the time they weren't allowed to use Jesse Ventura's commentary, so they redubbed it all. Oops, that's the camera. So that's 1992. And I'm just going to whiz through these very, very quickly, because I did one in 1993 as well. That was a hard one to track down, incidentally. I got the other ones, but that was a really difficult one to pick up. So it's 1993. That's my foot. Ow. 1994. 1995, which looks suspiciously like 1996. Well, near enough. But there we go. So, yeah, all year in view, and every single tape lasts around about 3 hours. So it covers all the major angles, all the big matches from those years. Again, depending on your point of view, that's either a really good period or a really bad period. And I must admit, it was, I was watching it religiously, but it was a pretty slow time. But yeah, it was good fun. But yeah, they're quite good. And like I said, they stopped doing it after that. I don't know why. Now let's go back to some really, really old stuff now. Let's go back to the early 90s with World Tour 91. So this is when they went around the world, and they just taped a load of matches at various arenas and where they were. So you can see we've got The Undertaker, we've got Earthquake on the front. Seems to be quite a lot in these videos. And then we've got Randy Savage throwing one of the Japanese guys, and possibly Tenryu. Might tell me, no, it's not going to. And then you've got Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter and General Adnan, which I think was from the UK show. So what we got from London, the Rockers versus the Orient Express. Randy Savage against Rick Martel, and Jake the Snake against Earthquake. Hacksaw Jim Duggan in action in Tokyo. Jim the Anvil Neidhart versus the Warlord from London. And we've got Roddy Piper versus the $1 Million Man and Mr. Perfect against Shawn Michaels. Plus, shopping with the $1 Million Man and etiquette with the great Lord Alfred Hayes. Love Lord Alfred Hayes. He's brilliant. World Tour 89-90. So this one's going back even further than that one. Now this should contain some footage from the Docklands show. So we got Rockers on the back, we got Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Also on the front we've got to mention the Ultimate Warrior and Jimmy Superfly Snuka. So on this one we've got special profile on Jimmy Snuka and a management segment on Jimmy Hart. And then we've got from Japan the Ultimate Warrior against the $1 Million Man. From Paris, the Rockers taking on the fabulous Rougeau brothers, and a fan favourite match never seen before. From London, Dino Bravo versus Bret Hart. You'll also note, if you ever saw that show from the Docklands, which was shown live on Sky 1, I believe, when it came out, because I used to, there's a guy my dad used to know, used to run a corner, and he went to that show. He used to have loads of tapes. He used to give me all these tapes. I mentioned it in the first couple of videos. And he had, he went to see that particular show. It's quite interesting. In the front row of that particular show were Paul Shane and Sue Pollard from Heidi High, and it's great because we've got Lord Alfred Hayes on commentary. There's a tape falling on the floor. Who was meant to be British, and he had no idea who they were. And you could obviously guess there was somebody shouting in his ear saying, "It's Paul Shane and Sue Pollard," as if Lord Alfred Hayes would know that. Who cares? I'll show you that one first because that will make sense. Battle of the Superstars with Jake the Snake Roberts and the $1 Million Man on the front. Including a WWF Championship match and a trivia test, which is fantastic. We've got Tito Santana and Mr. Perfect and Jim the Anvil Neidhart on the back. So what have we got on this tape? All 2 hours. Profile on Dusty Rhodes as he takes on the Big Boss Man Akeem and Macho King Randy Savage, not at the same time. Tito Santana against Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental Championship, which was set up after the Ultimate Warrior beat Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6. So that will be the culmination of that tournament, which went out on their weekly television shows. We've got the Bushwhackers against Rhythm and Blues, which otherwise known as the fast forward segment of the tape. Jake the Snake versus the $1 Million Man, where you wouldn't put that on the front without enticing us in. A fan favourite match, and again, who requests these? Jim the Anvil Neidhart against the Genius. Of course, otherwise known as Randy Savage's brother. And then the championship match you're going to get is the Ultimate Warrior against Mr. Perfect, which I don't think is too bad. It's 2 hours. There's Battle of Superstars there. I went a bit further because they released another one called the second annual Battle of the Superstars. How fantastic. This is great. And what have we got here? So we got Roddy Piper clotheslining Mr. Perfect on the front. And it's Hacksaw Jim Duggan as well. Mr. Perfect not wearing his singlet there. He's wearing his trunks, which he's probably guessing it's from his early... maybe before he started wearing those. On the back we got Hacksaw Jim Duggan throwing his 2x4 around. Piper against Mr. Perfect again, and also I think the Bushwhackers down the bottom and the Nasty Boys. Yep, Bushwhackers and the Nasty Boys. So we've got more trivia tests. We've got a profile on Hacksaw Jim Duggan as he takes on a flag match against Sergeant Slaughter. We've also got the Bushwhackers against the Nasty Boys. We've got Legion of Doom and the British Bulldog against Power and Glory and the Warlord. So again, this is probably sort of late 1990, early 1991. Profile of the exclusive Roddy Piper against Mr. Perfect, Ultimate Warrior against the Macho King Randy Savage, and much, much more. And then if that wasn't enough, I thought they'd milk it even further with the Battle of the Superstars 92 with Tatanka on the front, the Native American, and also the bloody Bushwhackers again. People know why the Bushwhackers are in the Hall of Fame. They're on every single bloody tape. That's why. We've got Bret Hart against the Mountie on the back. We've got the Macho Man versus the Berserker, Bret Hart and the Natural Disaster against the Nasty Boys and the Mountie. You can't see these matches anywhere else. Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper against Sid Justice and Ric Flair. Again, sounds good. This one not so good. The Bushwhackers, Sergeant Slaughter and Hacksaw Jim Duggan against the Beverly Brothers and the Nasty Boys. Taylor to the Wrestler. Needles, the master of sequins and spandex, will have you in stitches as he tangles with Rick Martel, The Undertaker and more. Tatanka versus the Warlord, El Matador against Skinner, and Virgil versus Reaper Man, tucked away there where you probably won't see it, around about crotch level on the Mountie. I bought this tape on the basis of these great matches over here, but I didn't see those other ones there. Another series of tapes, Super Tape, which again, now this is late 89, so mid to late 89 this one. Special profile on the bloody Bushwhackers. There we go. We've also got on the front there Terry Taylor and Mr. Perfect. We've also got Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake behind some sort of cage. I wonder what that could mean. Not the greatest condition tape, this one, but it wasn't my original one. I'm a bit manky there. What's the tape like? The tape's fine. Lovely. We've got loads of people on the back there as well, which I'm just not going to spend time reading because I've got so many of these to get through. So we've got a profile on the Bushwhackers. No holds barred steel cage match. Hulk Hogan and Brutus Barber Beefcake against Macho King Randy Savage. Oh, yes, Macho Man Randy Savage he was at the time, and Zeus. Now, no holds barred film, major motion picture release in 1989. I say major motion picture release. I'm quoting the WWF at the time. Hulk Hogan's first major starring role. What a disaster that was! And the whole point of that was to build up this guy, an actor called Tiny Lister, as a sort of monster, and then bring him in as a wrestler who can do absolutely nothing at all. Teaming with Randy Savage, you know, a tag team match to headline SummerSlam 89, which, to be fair, for what it was pretty good. And they carried on when No Holds Barred came out on video, and then went on to video on demand, or a pay-per-view event. You could order No Holds Barred and watch it. And after that, they put a match on, which was a tape for television cage match, which went onto this tape. See? And they dropped it sort of straight after that. Fan favourite match, Ruggy Ronnie Garvin against Mr. Perfect. We've got a WWF magazine segment with a profile on Bobby the Brain Heenan. I also know the debut of tugboats on that tape as well for some reason. Seems a strange one to put on there. Super Tape 2, which has got Marty Jannetty holding the leg. Appears to be one of the Rougeau brothers. I can't tell you which one. I'm good at knowing my wrestlers, but I'm guessing looking at the ear there, it's probably Jacques Rougeau. Yeah, probably Jacques Rougeau. You got Hulk Hogan tossing Mr. Perfect over a top rope. Just add that on in very, very quickly. Profile on the Rockers. Rick Rude and Roddy Piper in a steel cage match. And a bloopers segment. They get bloopers in wrestling. I don't know. But if they are what I'm thinking of, I think there's a couple of really funny ones on there. Yeah, we got bloopers, some most hilarious moments in the WWF. The Rockers profile, we've got Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake taking on the Genius and Mr. Perfect. Not sure if that's from Saturday night's main event or not. No, it wasn't, because I'm thinking of Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior against Mr. Perfect, the Genius. Sorry, my memory. Piper and Rude in a steel cage match. Slick manager profile. And that's it. Doesn't tell you an awful lot about that one. Doesn't hold out much hope for Super Tape 4. I'm missing Super Tape 3, I believe. There we go. So Super Tape 4 instead. Profile on the Big Boss Man who's on the front. We've got cooking taps. Cooking taps? What are cooking taps? Cooking tips with the Bushwhackers. Great. Tugboat versus The Undertaker, as requested by some of their great fans. Who are these people? There's the back of it there. Stuff. So we got Ultimate Warrior versus Sergeant Slaughter, which is a video exclusive. Tetanus Tornado against Mr. Perfect. The Legion of Doom versus the Orient Express and Mr. Fuji, and other stuff. Not telling you an awful lot about these. Now this is an interesting one. This is Super Tape 92. Now, got Bret Hart on the front and IRS. It also mentions there all the matches from Tuesday in Texas. Now, those who begin to know wrestling history will know that in 1991, after Survivor Series, the WWF thought it'd be a good idea to try and squeeze extra money out of somebody with a midweek pay-per-view, approximately about 4 days after people just forked out $50 to watch $50 to watch that Survivor Series. They thought we'd get away with charging $15 for a rematch from Survivor Series, and also a much vaunted grudge match. Shove some other stuff on there as well, and what was basically going to be a glorified house show. And they did it once, and they didn't do it again. All the matches from that event are on here. I think it was Bret Hart versus Skinner, Randy Savage versus Jack Snake Roberts, British Bulldog versus Warlord, Virgil and Tito Santana against the $1 Million Man and somebody else, Repo Man, and Hulk Hogan versus The Undertaker in a rematch for the title. That was it. Yeah, it doesn't tell me that on the back. So you've got special profile of The Undertaker, Bret Hart versus IRS, and you've also got an 8-man tag match between Jimmy Amble, Neidhart, Big Boss Man, and the Legion of Doom taking on the Nasty Boys, Earthquake, and the Mountie. Oh, it does tell me those matches. Well, not all of them anyway, but there we go. But I think that for some reason came out, and then it got reduced very, very quickly in price to about $5.99 or something. Because usually these tapes that came out were like these sort of ones I've been showing off here, sort of $12.99 most of these. There's a $10.99 budget range, $12.99 those, $14.99 on your old pay-per-views. These ones here, that one there, sort of reduced in price very, very quickly. Right, I'm nearly at the end of these now. Hooray! Yeah, I've got 3 more WWF ones to show you, which I'll just show you very, very quickly. And then we'll move on to some other ones. So, Wild in the UK. Now, this is interesting. This is sealed. This was available through the News of the World. We collected tokens and sent off for a video and a T-shirt. I've got a T-shirt somewhere. Black T-shirt with the old WWF scratch logo on it. Federation's best matches from the UK. I've never actually opened it. It's got Lita on the front. If you don't know who Lita is, then go and look it up, because I'm not going to fill you in on that one. And what we got in here, we got from One Night Only in 1997, Shawn Michaels versus the British Bulldog. No Mercy 1999, Shane McMahon versus the X-Pac. Insurrection 2000, Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys. So these are all the exclusive UK events that they did. Insurrection 2001, the first ever Queen's Cup match between William Regal and Chris Jericho. And from Rebellion 2000, the Fatal 4-Way match between Kurt Angle, Rikishi, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock. The tape, once again, they're quite good at these jokes. The tape does not contain any footage of Lita. And that was an hour long, so I've never watched that. It's still sealed. Right. Monday Night Raw Prime Cuts. When Raw first started in America, we didn't get it over here for quite some time afterwards. I think it's probably sort of 1994, maybe 1995. We used to get a show called Mania, which used to show highlights from Raw, but they'd dub the commentary over, and this is exactly it. All these matches, I think, possibly with the exception of 1 or 2, were dubbed over. I don't know. I don't understand why. We've got Rick Steiner and one of the Beverly Brothers on the front. And I remember when this came out, I thought, right, we've never seen these before in the UK. We've seen highlights before. We've never had a show like this before. But we've got to, So we've got Randy Savage versus Repo Man, Brutus Beefcake versus Ted DiBiase, the Nasty Boys versus the Head Shrinkers, Steiners versus the Beverly Brothers, Crush versus Lex Luger. And I think on the end of this tape is the Loser Leaves WWF match between Ric Flair and Mr. Perfect. But yeah, I bought that and I got home and I thought, well, they ain't got the proper commentary on it. It's all bloody dubbed over. So I invested in a copy of Prime Cuts. Now this is the American one. This is the NTSC copy. And this has all the original commentary intact. I can't remember where I've got this from now. Look, this is obviously released in a cardboard sleeve, and someone just shoved this in a VHS copy and sold it to me. And again, I can't read all that on there, but it's a completely different tape to the UK one. So I can't remember where I got it from. I used to buy stuff all over the place before. Can't really remember. Right. So that, with the exception of this, is all the WWF stuff. This is the Stone Cold six-pack. Now, if you know who I'm talking about, Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the biggest stars ever to step into the wrestling ring. And loads of different video cassettes came out. I was after this rage and saw it at Cold Boot, and I think I paid $5 for it. I think it was. A guy wanted 10, and I knocked him down to a $5 purely because, and it's all great. It's all cardboard cases, so I'll just try and take these out without dropping them all on the floor. Which, as you know, at the moment is probably likely to be it's not quite big enough to get my hand around. I need some with bigger hands, or another pair of hands. But I haven't got another pair of hands. Try and get those out. So, oops, there we go. Right, so all these video cassettes were in here. So we got 'Cause Stone Cold Said So, Austin 316 Uncensored, Hell Yeah, Austin vs McMahon, and Stone Cold Steve Austin Lord of the Ring. Now I think all these were 60-minute tapes. 45 minutes. 45 minutes? I don't buy 45 minutes tape. 60 minutes. 60 minutes. 60 minutes. 60 minutes. Now, what's fascinating enough about this as well, what is fascinating enough about these, they've all got, for some reason, TV14 written on them. Oops. Now, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, you see it there, TV14, bottom corner. That's sort of the American classification for video cassettes. But these are PAL releases. I know that because the box says it's Silvervision, which is the UK release for it. Now, the reason I knocked the guy down from 10 quid to 5 quid, because in this particular empty box should have been a t-shirt. This package contains a full-size t-shirt that has been compressed under 50 tons of pressure. When opened, this t-shirt will be wrinkled. After one wash, some wrinkles remain. The additional washings were turned into a normal wash t-shirt. This would have been the black absolute classic Stone Cold Steve Austin 316 t-shirt, which was behind the NWO black t-shirt, which came out initially. Probably the two most recognisable t-shirts in wrestling history. Probably the two biggest merchandise sellers ever. And I said, well, he ain't got the t-shirt, mate. So he said, well, the t-shirt's longer. I said, well, in that case, I'll give you a $5 for it. There's 5 video cassettes in now, and I'm only paying £1 each for it. And I got them. So I was a bit lucky to get that. Okay, it's missing the t-shirt, but still. So there we go. Stone Cold 6-pack. And all those cassettes came out normally. I did have them at one point. Or some of them. So that's all my WWF stuff there. We're now going to move on to ECW. ECW. Yeah. Now, for those of you who want a quick lesson on what ECW was. ECW was launched as Eastern Championship Wrestling at the end, I think it was probably early 1993, by Paul Heyman. And it remains this outlaw promotion for about 88 years of existence. And initially when it started off, it was just basically a general wrestling promotion. And it basically people like Don Morocco and Tito Santana and Eddie Gilbert and people like that were wrestling there. And then all of a sudden, sort of, it changed tact and started calling itself Extreme Championship Wrestling, and then became more violent. And, you know, well-known wrestlers have been through there, like Cactus Jack and Taz and the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer and Raven, and also some of the real, sort of tough brawling guys. And then you got sort of the real technical guys like Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho and the man who shall not be named. All those guys worked through there. There's some great Japanese stars as well working through there. And then they had guys like Mike Awesome towards him, Bam Bam Bigelow. Just tremendous array of people worked through there. But the matches generally, from about the mid-90s onwards, took on a more extreme, violent outlook on things. And people loved that. It was completely different. This was a small wrestling company which managed to get itself a major sort of cable network deal. They did pay-per-views as well. And it turned out that they were basically being bankrolled by the WWF. Some of their stars went to WCW, some of them went to WWF. They tried doing Invasion, angling the WWF, and various incarnations of ECW have happened since then, and whatever. It's never been quite the same. What I've got here is 7 tapes of ECW stuff. No particular order. We've got Guilty as Charged 2001, which has Steve Corino and Rhino on the front. And you shall pay $1.99 for that in a Red Cross shop. So we got Rhino, Danny Doring, Roadkill, Elektra, Tommy Dreamer, Sandman, and Rob Van Dam. Rob Van Dam's another name on there. Cyrus and Jerry Lynn against Christian York, Danny Doring and Roadkill versus Hot Commodities. Don't know them at all. Julio Dinero and Easy Money. Nova versus Chris Hamrick, Tommy Dreamer against C.W. Anderson, Yoshiro Dachiri and Mikey Whipwreck with Sinister Minister versus Crazy and Kid Cash, Super Crazy and Kid Cash, and Little Guido and Tony Marmaluke with Big Sal. Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger Chili Willy against Balls Maloney. Tables, ladders and chairs and canes, three-way dance. That's the sort of thing they used to do. Sandman versus Steve Corino versus Just Incredible. And then Rob Van Dam versus Jerry Lynn to finish it all off with. I bought this one. This one I originally had. I did pay $14.99 for this, folks. Guilty as Charged 2000, which has Mike Awesome and Lance Storm, who you can't see behind the H&B sticker. So again, Mikey Whipwreck against Bill Wiles and C.W. Anderson. Rob Van Dam versus Sabu. Just Incredible and Lance Storm against Tommy Dreamer and Raven. Little Spike Dudley against Mike Awesome. Depends on what your opinion on this sort of stuff was. I paid £2 for that one. Hardcore Heaven 2000. You haven't got Rhino on the front. Don't know the other two. Not really my sort of thing. Balls Mahoney versus Masato Tanaka. The Baldies versus Nova and Chris Chetty versus Danny Doring and Roadkill, so a three-way dance. TV title match, Rhino versus the Sandman. Rob Van Dam versus Jerry Lynn. Just Incredible versus Lance Storm in the main event. November to November 99. Just Incredible on the front. I think that's Balls Mahoney as well. Three-way dance, Tajiri versus Super Crazy versus Jerry Lynn. The Baldies versus Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten and New Jack. If I remember that match started, this New Jack sort of walking halfway through. Masato Tanaka against Mike Awesome. They had a tremendous series of matches in this division, this organisation. Taz versus Rob Van Dam. Rhino, Just Incredible and Lance Storm against Tommy Dreamer, Raven and the Sandman as your main event. Heatwave 99. Tommy Dreamer and Francine, I think that is on the front, or is that Dawn Marie? One of the two. Can't remember. Little Guido versus Super Crazy. Dudley Boys versus Balls Mahoney and Spike Dudley. Taz versus Tajiri. And Just Incredible and Lance Storm against Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn as your main event. That's quite a short card, that one. Heatwave 99. One of the very last tapes I actually picked up, and I did pay £1 for it. Heatwave 96. The Samoan Gangster Party versus the Gangsters. Sabu and Mikey Whipwreck against the Eliminators. The Full-Blooded Italians against the Dudley Boys. Tarzan Goto against Axel Rotten. I can imagine that's going to be violent. Sandman versus Raven in Rage in the Cage. And then the last one I've got is the Buffalo Invasion, which actually wasn't a pay-per-view. I think it was just a series of matches they pulled together from television and then sold it off. But you can see from there it's a really sort of badly done cover. Really sort of cheap, nasty cover, that one. The Pitbulls versus the Full-Blooded Italians. Taz versus Spike Dudley. Shane Douglas against Chris Chetty. The Dream Partner match. Raven and Stevie Richards versus Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk. I don't know we haven't mentioned so far. The Gangsters versus the Eliminators versus the Dudley Boys. And Terry Funk versus Raven versus Sandman versus Stevie Richards. Not for everybody, ECW, but I can think of... Yeah, some of the stuff, you get beyond the violence, some of the stuff is really, really good. Now, WCW stuff. There ain't much of this because WCW never really had an outlet for its VHS. There was some stuff in the early 90s, and then there was nothing until the late 90s when it was basically on its arse. And then limited video cassette releases, and then that was it. You really had to go. I bought a few American tapes because some of the stuff you just couldn't get it over here. I did meet a guy who was trying to convince me. I think it was even the Comic Con or Memorabilia show, and he was trying to convince me that he'd managed to secure all the master tapes from WCW when they went under. And I thought, well, that's bollocks for a start, isn't it? Because they sold WCW lock, stock and barrel for a couple of $1 million to the WWF. So I thought, no, you can't possibly have all the master tapes. He said, well, I got a letter. I said, well, where's your letter? He said, well, it's at home. I said, well, what's the bloody use to me? Is it at home? So he got all these videotapes he'd sort of made himself. And I said, I didn't buy stuff like that. I'm not getting a bit of buying copies. And I said, well, there can't be bloody master tapes. I said, if you can't provide the evidence, I said, it's copies. I'm selling copies, mate. Anyway, Luckily, these are all originals, which is great. Now, I've never seen this in this set before, and I know I've got some more WCW stuff elsewhere. But I know there's something missing out of it already, so I'm beginning to think, where the hell have I done with that? So I've got this, which is the WCW NWO Superstar Series Collection 1. There was a Collection 2, but it wasn't called this. It was basically sort of like highlights of pay-per-views, which I've got somewhere else. Not got it here, I've got it somewhere else. Yeah, so this basically, the idea was, it was to have all these wrestlers on sort of profiles. So you got Goldberg and Sting, but Sting, Trauma Sting, as I like to call him. You've got Kevin Nash and Ric Flair. You've got Randy Savage and Diamond Dallas Page. And then you've got Sting and Sid Vicious on the end. And basically all it is just half a video. So we got, let's show you this one. So great covers, by the way. Look at lime green. So you got half the tape will be Sting back in black, and the other half will be Sid Vicious. And they ran for a couple of hours each, and they were just sort of show you various matches from the time period. So I did have one of these. I think I had the Flair Nash one on its own, and then I saw, oops, there's the camera. Special effects. And then I saw this car boot, and I thought, oh, I've never seen that before, and I've never seen it since, like that. It's not worth anything, because these tapes are pennieless, but... And then they also started chucking this sort of stuff out. Let's do it in order. Which is pay-per-view collections. Now again, they sold these separately, and I did pick up a couple of these. And I also picked up some very rare mail order only ones, because the way you can get WCW pay-per-views in the late 90s was to get them off a mail order. And it turns out that when they were going out of business, this mail order, it just didn't take off. People just didn't take them up. They were knocking them out at £1 each or something. And because it's the only place you can get sort of the only place you can get early to mid to late 1990s WCW was from this mail order place. Of course, the price of these second-hand tapes shot through the roof. They were exchanging hands for about 30-40 quid because you just couldn't get them. Absolutely sensational, it really was. Great time to be a wrestling fan, because if you know what was going on, you can get them cheap. I've missed out. So we've got here, we've got... should we do them all, shall we? Should we do them all? Yeah, let's go on, let's get them out. Let's get them out one by one, shall we? This is WCW Sold Out. I have no idea. Probably 1999, I'm guessing, for this one. So this is everyone's least favourite WCW period. Nash versus Funk for Control. Control is everything. I've been told that many times. So we've got... Again, I can't read most of these out. I'll just give the highlights. You've got Sid Vicious versus the wrestler we shall not name. Booker T against Stevie Ray. Screaming Norman Smiley versus Meng versus Brian Knobbs versus Fit Finlay in a hardcore match. And Oklahoma. That was a horrible parody of Jim Ross. Against Medusa, who... Cripes, she had a strange old career, didn't she? Yes, we got Nash versus Terry Funk for the position of WCW Commissioner. Diamond Dallas Page against Buff Bagwell. Kidman against Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and The Wall. Now the idea was Kidman was going to go through a 3-match progress in the evening, and you've only got to watch the first match to realise what an amazing mess that was. Yep, there we go. That's all in that one. I've watched that one because it's unsealed. I'd say uncensored would be lying. Starrcade 99, this is the infamous Bret Hart Goldberg match where Goldberg gives him such a kick that it basically knocks him out of wrestling for life. Oh god, here we go again. Trying to read. Hell of a crappy end to that match. He's also told you exactly what happens at the end of the match as well. So the big reveal at the end, he's sort of giving away in the back of the videotape. The wrestler who shall not be named against Jeff Jarrett, who was no longer Double J Jeff Jarrett. By that point, he was really annoying. Kevin Nash against Sid Vicious, Diamond Dallas Page versus David Flair, Sting versus a Total Package, and Medusa versus Evan Courageous. Sounds horrible. None of this sounds really good. Bash at the Beach 99. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the infamous Junkyard Invitational Battle Royal where wrestlers literally are killing themselves in a junkyard in bad light. Kevin Nash against enlists Sting. Kevin Nash and Sting versus Randy Savage and Sid Vicious in a tag team match for the heavyweight championship. That make any sense at all, does it? Diamond Dallas Page, Bam Bam Bigelow, and Canyon versus the wrestler who shall not be named, in Perry Saturn. Conan, Rey Mysterio, and the No Limit Soldiers, and that was a bad idea as well. Against the West Texas Rednecks. Buff Bagwell against Roddy Piper in a boxing match. Flipping 13 years after WrestleMania 2. Piper's still doing the the boxing match gimmick. Spring Stampede 99. Just checking I've watched that one. No, I haven't. Still sealed. Bash at the Beach 99 is still sealed. Stampede 99, which is the Four Corners match between Sting, Hogan, Diamond Dallas Page and Ric Flair. What else we got in here? Goldberg against Kevin Nash. Bam Bam Bigelow versus Hack. That was Sandman, of course, from ECW. Booker T versus Scott Steiner, and also I should mention that Randy Savage is the guest referee in that main event as well. I've watched that one. I knew I've watched that one because I remember it. And then we've got Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan on the front of Uncensored 99. Now this was a cage match for the control of WCW. It's really the idea. It was a first blood match. That was it. And they put that out of the way. Barbed wire around the cage. And the idea was the first person to bleed in that match would lose. Now, I think they weren't very far into the match. Can't remember who bled first. But everyone was like, so what's going on? First blood match, he's already bleeding. And if Ric Flair was bound to be in, wouldn't I expect? It was a good match, but it was just completely screwed up from start to finish. What else we got on there? Kevin Nash versus Rey Mysterio Jr. Chris Jericho versus Saturn. Booker T versus Scott Steiner again. Uncensored 99. So that was collection 1. Four. 5. Oh, that wasn't enough. They bought out collection 2 as well, which has got Sid Vicious on the side of it, containing 5 pay-per-views from the year 2000, which is an even worse year for WCW. Just didn't learn from their lessons, did they? So what have we got? All sorts on here. We've got the Great American Bash 2000 with Sting and Vampiro on the front. There's somebody I never got. Some shots in the back of that one as well. So we've got Hulk Hogan versus Kidman, Jeff Jarrett against Kevin Nash, Scott Steiner versus Tank Abbott and Rick Steiner in a 2-on-1 Asylum match. What? Yeah. Vampiro versus Sting in a torch match. Ric Flair versus David Flair. Yeah. And 5 more explosive matches. Can you take the excitement? I can't. Slamboree 2000 with Diamond Dallas Page and Jeff Jarrett on the front. And there's Hogan on the back again, and you can see Sting and Vampiro and get another match, and Scott Steiner. That one is also sealed. Now, I've even got the leaflet in there. We've got Diamond Dallas Page versus DDP in a triple cage match. Hulk Hogan versus Billy Kidman, Sting versus Vampiro, Shane Douglas versus Ric Flair, and Scott Steiner versus Captain Rection. Oh dear, yes, Captain Hugh G. Rection. Wrestling, what do you expect? It's not rocket science. Stampede 2000, Vampiro, Sting, Scott Steiner, The Wall, Jarrett, and Diamond Dallas Page on the front again. And on the back we've got Jarrett and Steiner and Vampiro and all sorts of different people that you've probably forgotten about. Under the new regime of Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo, the Millionaires Club against the New Blood. Scott Steiner versus Sting, Jeff Jarrett versus Diamond Dallas Page, Bagwell and Douglas against Ric Flair and the Total Package Lex Luger, with Miss Elizabeth. She wasn't called Miss then, she was just Elizabeth. Uncensored 2000 with Jeff Jarrett and Sid Vicious on the front, and Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair on the back as well. That must mean they're fighting each other. Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, Jeff Jarrett versus Sid Vicious, Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair in a strap match. So they're strapped to each other, and yeah, not quite as fun as it sounds, to be honest with you. Lex Luger against Sting in a lumberjack cast match, because Luger had been going around breaking people's arms by that point, so they're all surrounding the side of the ring wearing casts. Because wrestling. The Wall versus Bam Bam Bigelow, the Harris Brothers versus the Marmalukes, and Terry Funk and Dustin Rhodes in a bull rope match. Again, sealed. I have watched these because I've got them through other purposes. And the final one, you'd be glad to know it's the final one. No more after this. Super Brawl 2000. Sid Vicious on the front. Three-way dance for the heavyweight gold. Again, sealed. There's Hogan versus Luger on the back, and there's Jeff Jarrett as well by the looks of it, and other people. Sid Vicious, Jeff Jarrett and Scott Hall for a heavyweight championship match. Hogan versus the Total Package, Ric Flair versus Terry Funk in a hardcore death match. Again, not as good as it sounds. I had some classic matches 10 years before, but this is just not good enough. The Marmalukes against David Flair and Crowbar. What was going on? That was good. There you go, that's it. That's all the videos. So there may be another one if I can find out what I've done with all my pay-per-view videos, but I think we may be sort of getting into the realms of that may be too long to do. I don't know. But I hope you enjoyed that. I know some people wanted to see it, some people didn't, but hey-ho. It's done now, isn't it? So hope you enjoyed that anyway. Thank you very much indeed for watching. That is brilliant. If you have enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, tick the bell for notifications for all the stuff that's going up. More gaming to come very, very soon. But on behalf of myself, it's been a pleasure having you in the pantry once again. This is the Retro Bear saying so long. Bye for now.